Hey everybody, Bill Owen from Mnpctech and the Modzu. We brought the Hangouts back. We're done with our summer break. By the way, Droog is not with us. He's called in sick today. I'm sure he's going to play hooky and be in the chat though. But we brought back from last year our most popular topic, and that is keyboard modding. Again, with our special guest, Binge from Hunger Work.Studio here.
Hey.
Say hi, Binge. Good to see you again, Robert.
Good to see you guys. Thanks, Bill.
You bet. And then we've got the two guys that were responsible for dragging me into this hobby of keyboard modding, Mech boards. Eel Ambiance.
What's up, guys?
Obviously, in his workshop, he's even eating keyboard switches. He's got a popcorn bowl full of switches.
Oh,
yeah. That's hardcore, man. Which ones taste the best, Gatorons or cherries?
Cherries have since they updated their molds recently, they're pretty smooth.
Okay, that's good. Then we got Nubasaurus back, who is probably, out of anyone I know, the most hardcore mech board keycap artisan fanboy ever.
Binge is far more hardcore, and Eel too. I just dabble. I watch from a distance.
You could be the Walter Cronkite of what's going on in the mech board community, though. Anything that's going on. Yeah, you know it.
I know. I'm a lurker. It's like hardcore lurking, you know?
So, like, if there's any questions, I can ask these two guys, and they'll let me know right away. They follow the trends in that. And Eel's been working on these custom keycap sets. And actually, I shit you not, Eel, the other day I did a Google search. It was like custom mechanical keyboard keycaps, and your Mad Max set came up in the first page results.
Nice.
Yes. And then you just created a new set that WASD Keyboards is going to be releasing soon.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's it's set based on the Colonial Marine Corps. From Aliens.
Oh, there you go, right there, buddy.
Oh yeah,
Bug Stomper from the landing ship.
Yeah, let's see if we can do a screen share here.
Yeah, you shared it the other day. It was just badass. I love the color scheme that you chose for it. Oh yeah,
that's an earlier render. I updated some of the legends, cleaned it up a little bit, but that's the basic layout.
Okay, correct me.
The crosshair arrow cluster is really doing it for me.
Yeah, nice. Eel is so awesome. Okay, this is one thing I thought of when he did the remote. And he had to do the remote ship, and he had a keyboard. He had like
Bishop.
You recall that? Yeah, Bishop. And is there any like aesthetic inspiration from that in your keyboard here?
Not at all. I didn't even think about that. I literally just sat down and looked at the available colors from WASD and just kind of started tinkering, and that's what I came up with.
So somebody could order this set of keycaps alone, or they could actually order a board and have these keycaps put on the board.
Correct.
Right? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's great. I can't wait. So this is the second one that they're going to release that you've done. Do you have like plans for the third one yet?
Actually, third one.
Oh, this is the third.
Yeah. The second one was based off the golf racing set. I just modified it, changed it up a little bit to minimize any possibility for IP infringement.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like those legends.
Porsche 917 golf racing thing. Now, what's cool is that he's got the logo there, and then escape is pit for the pit at the racetrack, nice. And then number 5. And there was some other stuff too that he had done. Like the arrow keys are like the turn signal indicator design. And this was something that you'll help me with, because I just finished my golf racing theme build, and I thought, well, why not have a keyboard that matches it too? So Yeah, man. I think that's great, and keep on. But what do you think would be your next idea for a next key set if you were to have them release one?
You know, stuff will just hit me at odd times, and or start tinkering a little bit, or write down some notes or something. But most of the time, it just kind of slips out my mind, and then I don't forget it or don't really think about it. There's just so much on my plate right now. Just trying to,
I can tell.
To get the existing
You don't have
projects
anything
done.
to do around you. There's nothing to be done.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the movie sign project. I'm literally coming up on 8 years now. And
tell everybody about that while you're on that topic.
Thing needs to get done. Yeah, it's a tribute mod for Mystery Science Theater. I had started it close to 8 years ago. The show had already been canceled, and didn't expect it to come back. And it just kind of went into dormancy mode. I actually initially I'd started it for my younger brother who was going into college at the time. He's long since graduated and works in the radio industry. But I just wanted to finish it. It was supposed to be a gaming rig for him, and I just wanted to get it done. And then when the revival came up on Netflix recently, it just kind of kicked me in the butt to bring it back and update it and start working on it, try to finish it. I wanted to finish it before the show premiered, but that didn't happen. So I just stopped stressing about that. I did, however, take a spare old QFR that I had and customize it a little bit.
Oh, nice.
That is a aluminum shell from China. I dropped it in there, put desoldered all the, I think there were browns that were on it, and dropped in some Gateron yellows, just left everything stock. Then of course the custom keycap set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the significance of the FG?
Okay. The G is the Gizmonics Institute logo from the show, and the F is the Castle Forrester logo from the show.
Okay.
So it looks odd to, just a random person looking at it that doesn't know what they're looking at. Why do those caps don't match the rest of it? But it's just kind of an inside joke.
Yeah, but it's conversational. You know, that's what's cool about those details. It's like, oh, what's this all about? Oh, you get a little story behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the biggest bitch with this was wiring up a pair of 3mm LEDs and running the wiring for that off the stock caps lock and scroll lock switches, so that it'll fill the the LED holes that are up there. So I spent a little time doing that just so it's complete, instead of just having some open holes there on the enclosure. I mean, it would have been easier just to cover it over with lab metal before I powdered everything, but I just figured, why not? It was already there.
Nubasaurus, did you had shared a board recently in the Modzu forums, didn't you, that you had finished?
Maybe.
I think it had like interesting color you chose for the keys.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So it's a Red Scarf 68, nice. Which is all right. I got a walk on there. So I think it's like Tai-Hao Sunset keycaps, just something kind of cheapish to customize it. And then I wanted to, I got in on group by SA 1965, so I was going to put that on here to go with kind of match. I got a custom mahogany spacebar cut. That'll match the fresh meat mahogany case on that, so I can do that together. And then it kind of turned into like some unicorn vomit with I got a bunch of toads going on over here. So
Okay.
those are bro caps. But yeah, it's I like it. I've got Zeal 65s on this. So Zealio 65s.
Okay, and what is the escape again? Tell the story behind that.
It's a key walk. It's a little Ewok sort of character. An artist. Let's see if it'll focus. Her name is Booper. She does key walks, and she does monkeys. I have a monkey too, and kernels, which is a rabbit. They're pretty awesome artisans. And I know Binge talked about them before, and definitely popular in the collecting realm. So
Booper's work is by far some of the top stuff out there.
Yeah,
it's very cool
definitely.
to see.
And so that was from a Valentine's Day sale, and it's kind of like, oh, these are like neon pink colors. It's like, hey, we'll see how it goes. But it looks awesome with the sunset, whatever it is. I don't even know what it's called. But it looks good, and yeah, I like it. So
yeah, it's very original. And that's a good segue to Binge from Hunger Work.Studio, and what he specializes in making these custom keycaps. And so we want to get like the backstory and how you got into the mech boards and how you got into making these amazing caps.
Okay. Well, I got into mechanical keyboards. That would be around 2007. Keycap was a fledgling community. I wasn't really hardcore. I had a Philco Mage's Touch 2, and that changed it for me. And the reason I went looking was because I had one of those membrane backlit keyboards where if you were to type long enough on them, where your WASD would be, you'd instead have just light splotches because you've worn off all the coating on the caps, and it was cheap. It broke. I found myself buying like $20, $30 keyboards pretty regularly, and not because I was doing anything seriously abusive, just because they were junk. Got the Philco. That changed things. Fast forward past that time frame, and there was a guy named Click Clack, who started making kind of skull keys, really iconic artisans for the time. I remembered when they were $30 at EliteKeyboards.com, and I went back to look for them because I was like, oh, I wonder if they're still stocking them. And that got me to look into what was happening. And what was happening was the guy had made a sculpture of this skull keycap, and he made his own molds. He made the keys himself. He mixed all the pigment for the colors, and that was super inspiring to me. It was also very frustrating not to be able to take part in appreciation for this art form because there was nothing out there. I mean, at the time you had Clack, Brocaps, and Martin Ya, who does hotkeys. And that was really all there was. In 2013, I was just kind of fed up with losing. That's how everybody was putting it. Even though you had to pay to own one of these things, and honestly, their base price kept going up and up and up, depending on who was making them. You were either a winner or a loser. You got in on the sale or you didn't. And so I've been dedicating a lot of my time to kind of changing that and giving artisans information about how to turn their regular old sculpting or painting or graphical design skills into making keycaps, and I've been doing it myself ever since then.
That's cool. When we first were introduced to you was last year on our other Modzu YouTube channel, and one of the things that really educated me was just telling us about like what there are for good mechanical keyboards to get into and kind of the ones to stay away from if you're just getting into this hobby where you're like, I want to get a keyboard that I can swap out the switches and do custom keycaps on.
Mm-hmm. That can be really hard. I'm sure Stuart could tell you a bit about it. And really, it's kind of like what base model keyboard has the right layout and has the right hardware to allow you to do that modding. The last time I was recommending as just a very, very cheap entry level was the Team Wolf CIY keyboards, because they have a hot swappable system, and that would allow you to take the stock Otemu switches out, which you can kind of do by hand, and then plunk in Gatorons or Cherry switches. Now, I think that's a really good place to start out with. They have a standard keyboard layout, and what I mean by that, because I happen to have one of their TKLs here, and that stands for 10 keyless, is the bottom row of keys. These are all 1.25 unit modifiers, and this is a 6.25 universal spacebar. If you look at any Corsair boards or some Razer boards or even some Cooler Master boards, they won't have a standard bottom row. So if you end up wanting to get a very custom key set, like we were talking with Jeremy about, it's actually kind of hard to get that custom key set if you see something out there that you like. I mean, you can go full custom and order your own from a company. That can save you a little bit of a headache, but say you want to get in on Carbon or Dolce or any of the other custom key sets out there that get really popular, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time. And I think the other recommendation that I had, other than the CIY, the last time was the Cooler Master Rapid Fire series. That's their 10 keyless board, which it's really great. It's a 10 keyless, so it's a similar layout to what you saw. It just has the 10 key pad removed. It's got a steel plate. The case is solid. You can modify the case really easily. You can paint over it, do whatever you want. There are hacks for it that people have released. I think it's called the Snowflake. Am I right with that?
That sounds right.
That I don't know. Jeremy might.
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a controller board that somebody had designed to replace the controller board that is in the keyboard stock. And this will allow you to reprogram it to do macros or have your own custom key layout, where the A key is. You could do Dvorak or Colmac or any weird design you want, but it's also a standard layout keyboard, so you can upgrade the sets. That's like a really cool kit. Well, I wouldn't say a kit keyboard, but a keyboard that you could trick out, kind of like a Honda.
Cool. There's a lot of options. Let me ask you this. Now, I got my Magic Force. I don't remember which model it was. It was like $69 on Amazon. Is there any good boards you'd recommend for people who shop on Amazon?
Well, the CIY one that I mentioned was $60 by Team Wolf. The Magic Force keyboard that you mentioned is actually a really good option as well. I mean, the entry-level market is getting... there are going to be more names in it because people kind of want to get that $60 to $100 range keyboard. That seems to be like the sweet spot for most people who are just getting into mechanical keyboards. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see a lot of names, and some of them are just an OEM that is rebranded. So whenever you see a name for a mechanical keyboard on Amazon and it's in that price range that you're looking for, go to Reddit's mechanical keyboards community or Geek Hack, or maybe even ask one of your friends in the community. Maybe ask these guys here, you know, you guys take requests, right?
Yeah, man.
You know, it's not too difficult to figure out if a keyboard's part of an OEM that somebody else manufactures, and it's just rebranded a bunch of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Is there any to stay away from, Binge? We should like, looks good, specs good, but not so good in person. Warn us.
That's a lot harder because people's personal preferences are all over the place, and flavor is the name of this game. Like, your keyboard flavor is really going to push you in one direction or another. Some things to look out for would be pad printed keycaps, because those are the kinds that I was talking about earlier, where the more you touch them, that pad printing is going to wear off and you're going to lose your legends. You're going to push through that black paint that is just covering a clear key. That kind of stuff you should probably stay away from. So know the difference between how legends are made on your keycaps. Double shots are great. Dye sublimation is great. UV printing is great. Keep an eye out for that non-standard bottom row. If you see a keyboard that is all, you know, 3 1.25s here on what would be the left-hand side of the keyboard and 4 1.25s on the right, you're in a good place. Okay. It's a decent keyboard. It will last you for a little bit of time as far as switching out and customizing. I have not recently run into too many keyboards that have made me cringe trying them at keyboard meetups and things. There are some old ones that are still out there and still sold. There's an old Zalman keyboard.
I remember when they
that
did
uses
those.
Ancient Kales, like before Kale decided to, you know, do anything of quality. Yeah, these are like $25, and
okay,
they're the worst.
Okay,
the absolute worst keyboard.
Stay away from Zalman, gang.
I don't hold on. I'll pull up the Zalman keyboard and share that.
All right. Meanwhile, in our chat, we've got some people coming in. Tell us, do you guys have a Mech keyboard? Have you done anything with it? Like what model and brand it is? You can also post in the comments. And just let us know where you're sitting at on Mech keyboards. It seems that there's still a lot of people that were like me just a year ago. I mean, I knew about mechanical keyboards and the benefit of it, but I didn't understand like the different types of switches and all these options that you had. And some people are like, mechanical keyboard, isn't that just really loud, click, click, clacky, you know, clickety, clackety, gonna annoy my spouse kind of a thing?
So I found it, and this is the Zalman ZMK 500.
Yeah.
And you'll see this exact keyboard rebranded by all kinds of companies, and some of them are even clones. They're not even from the OEM, and they're even worse.
Ew.
So this is like a buyer beware thing. If you see a keyboard that looks like this, just kind of nope out.
Thank you.
Say nope.
It looks like a cheap knockoff of the Rapu V500.
See, I don't even know what that means.
Strip between the F row.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, it may be like a derivative of it. But if you look here, this has pad printed legends.
Yeah.
And they just look horrible. You can see the black already kind of fading through the lettering. It's so thin. Everything is just this horrible quality. And these are vintage Kale switches.
Oh, Kale.
Which Kale has done a number, and they've really evolved. Their key switch game, which is great.
All right.
But before, the stems used to snap off if you were to wiggle the key hard enough.
All right. So now your specialty, let's dive into that. You make these custom keycaps, and what's amazing is that you sculpt these by hand first, the original by hand, and then you do all the molding yourself. And they're usually sold as a limited run series. And yeah. So is there any like on hand you can share again with us and give us more of an education on what exactly you're doing?
Okay. Well,
also
trying to get this one up.
Anybody that's watching can go to Binge's site. It's Hunger Work.Studio and check out his stuff. What I like to do is I like to go into Google Images and you can see the whole portfolio of these different keycaps he's done over the years.
Yeah, that is hungerwork.studio. And let me see if I can open up this.
Let's see here.
I'm going to try and get this open.
TCBP. Currently repainting my QFR Plus. I also have an An Pro and a Unicomp 122.
There we go.
So, is that respectable? So, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, this is an example of a key that I've made. This is called the Hunger Key, and it's my baby. This is something that I worked from when I started in 2013 to 2016. The beginning of 2016 is when I released this, and it's pretty crazy. I created a molding system specifically to be able to make stuff like this called the Synth. I was referring to trying to assist people in learning more about making keycaps, and part of that process has been making tools to help people make their own. So this is a little bit of what I do, and I'm going to try and load up some more photos here.
That's freaking awesome. I think they're saying something else though, but Annabelle 33 digging it.
So there's I recently went to Seattle and Portland, and I got to hang out with Eat the Food, who is Nightcap's founder. Goes by Eat the Food online, and these are the egg faces.
Those lovely egg faces.
Yeah, there's like a story behind these, right? It's like a big story.
Yeah, there's an artist, and I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy makes very photorealistic, kind of like in the style of old Victorian dolls. Like he puts those kind of doll faces, the very uniform eyes, the cute little nose, and the kind of puffy lips that you see here. And he puts these faces onto giant egg sculptures, and he gets the texture just right so it looks like an egg. And these things are just like the creepiest Humpty Dumpty looking things.
Yeah, they're so creepy.
And he sells those?
Well, yeah, there's an artist that does that. But
so yeah,
Eat the Food likes this guy. Like he thinks this work is really cool. And so the egg face is based off of that style of sculpture. And he allowed me to use his molds, and I made this. We call this a colorway, when you specifically mix a resin that would normally be either pure white or clear, and you mix it to have colors that go along with one another.
That's really cool, and it's transparent too. So yeah. I didn't see them, but didn't you do like a recent? It was your Why So Serious Joker caps.
That was Eat the Food.
That was him.
That was another egg face colorway.
Oh,
yep.
That wasn't a partnership that you guys did together. That was just something he did.
That's something he did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool how the eyes light up. That's pretty ingenious. And then the tongue. So, yeah, that's
gorgeous.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, even the ribs in his jaw are there.
Yeah, the the kind of ridges.
Yeah,
on the
man.
Yeah.
Is it like was that based on as a gorilla?
It was just meant to be a creature.
Yeah.
I was kind of free-forming it. I took some design elements that I really liked, kind of like the void eyes
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like a stubby nose, but that has some folds right here with the skin, just to give it, you know, a little bit of realism, something that people could identify with. And it turns out that's more ape-like, that's more primate. And the teeth are actually replicas of one of my dog's teeth from when they were a puppy. They are to scale.
You made a mold of it and scaled it down?
No, I took so they're actually that size.
Oh, wow.
Their puppy teeth are that big, and when they fall out, you'll find them in the carpet, kind of like stab you in the foot, and you're like,
step on them. It's just like a little needle.
yeah, exactly. So we collected them, and then I was like, oh, you know what? I'll just make a mold of this real quick, and I made the replicas out of epoxy, and then stuck them into the sculpture to get each of the teeth.
Oh, that's amazing. So what blows me away is that you sculpt these to scale first, and you don't do it under a magnifying glass. You don't wear glasses, and you can get that intricate scaling. Can you show us some more examples that you have around on the camera?
Yeah, this is something I'm working on right now. Let's see if I can get this in focus. Here we go. Move you into view. This is Artisan. It's a karate otter. He's going to have the Karate Kid kind of headband going on with the rising sun. He's got one, you know, fierce looking eye, and the other eye is scarred over. So he's seen some stuff. And then he's got his karate gi, which I'm working on refining.
Oh, you're still working on this guy?
Yeah, he's a work in progress.
Okay.
Let's see. And this is a sculpture that I was working on during our last interview, but has since finished, called the Switch Doctor.
Wow. Yeah, it's like he's his face is breaking out of rock or crystal or something.
Yep. Yeah, very earthy feeling key. And seeing him cast is also really cool. Here's
oh yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Now the different colors, those different colored moldings we're looking at?
Oh, so what we do is we take we'll take resins that have characteristics that we like in a key, you know, UV resistance, the hardness, whether or not it feels, you know, rubbery or it gets a good finish. Can you do polishing work to it? And we take these resins and we color them by hand using dyes and pigments.
Oh, okay. Yes, truly a hands-on operation, and which justifies the cost. And like, give us an idea, like, so what do these typically sell for? The Why So Serious one by the guy that does the faces and the eggs, that went for $980, or like the last one on eBay.
Yeah, yeah. So the bidding went really, really hard for that. And I have to say, to his credit, he had released that same keycap in a couple different ways. There was one given away for free. There was one that could be bought at regular cost for his sale, and then the third one was an eBay auction. So he really made it so if somebody wanted to support his artwork, they could. And I think that that's really awesome. At first I was kind of upset with it because auctions have had a history of creating a lot of confrontation between collectors, and I mean, you can kind of understand that. But I think the community has evolved a little bit with its size, and people can handle it. It didn't really get out of hand, and people were really respectful to him, and he was really respectful to the person who had purchased the key. I know that they got a few extras that he wasn't expecting, because Nightcaps was so overwhelmed with the amount of support for, you know, something designed in a mold of a keycap that he could readily reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
So a key like his Egg Face V2 that I showed earlier, like the green one or the Why So Serious, just a reproduction of that sculpt in a color, it could range from, you know, $55 to $70, depending on the complexity of the casting process. That's what, you know, he would ask. Right now, I'm asking $50 for keys with 3 colors in them. And I mean, I base all my pricing off of colors because that's where most of our time goes when we are casting. We get our resins together, and then we spend time to mix and color match and really get these unique colors, and then place them in the molds at the proper time. That makes it all really time consuming. I mean, here's an example of another new key.
Wow.
This is Earl Escape.
Nice.
Great color.
He's got 4 colors in him. The white, the orange, the purple, and the blue. And you can see I've got everything from his necktie to the cufflinks to his pocket square all colored in there. And most of those details are, you know, not much bigger than the depth of my fingernail.
Right. Now, how many of those will you make and sell?
That's a good question. The rate at which we're going now, and you can this side.
Somewhere.
Here, back there. Those are all molds for the keys. I'm just gonna grab one real quick.
Okay.
And it's a 2-part mold. So you'll have the mold that forms the underside of the key and is to the correct specification. And then this is an autofile mold. So this is like a little otter that's chewing on a cassette tape. And this is one out of 32 molds that we cast simultaneously. And in doing 32 molds with 3 colors each, that generally takes us about 9 hours of work to complete that. And I've gotten really good at it. I can usually do that about 3 times a week at the most, because the rest of the week is spent cleaning the molds, hand finishing the keys. Like for instance, on the lapidary sander back there, grind and polish up the bottoms a little bit. I have some polishing blocks up on the shelving back there that we go and we give them, you know, a little bit of hand treatment to. And then we have to make sure that they fit. And I've posted some Instagram videos on how we test fitment, which can be really fun. I mean that kind of like sarcastically, but you can, with resin, you have shrinkage, and where you have shrinkage, you may not be able to predict whether or not the key is actually going to stay on a key switch. So here's a video example of, I'm showing customers that we check each and every single one of our keys so they work on a cherry switch. And we do that by pressing the key down and then letting it up at the full force of the spring. And if the key comes off the switch, it's too loose. And we paint lacquer on the inside of the stem in order to make sure that it holds fast.
I get it. Right.
Boing.
What is that little tester? Who makes that?
That is a techkeys.us product. That's their 3 keyboard. and their 3 keyboard is a way that you can wire together 3 cherry key switches and program them on a board that they provide, plug this in, and it becomes like a small macro pad.
Cool.
So that's a really cool tool. We stick 3 switches in those, and the middle switch is the most worn switch. Like, we take a really tight key and we just pop it on and off a whole bunch of times. And then the outer 2 are always new switches, so we know what our key fits like on a stem that's worn versus a brand new stem of a thicker switch. And Cherry MX Whites actually have a pretty thick stem.
Let me ask you quick, personal favorite switch and why? And we'll start with Eel over there. Eel.
Oh my God, I don't think I can answer that question. It changes all the time. I actually just built my new daily driver. Just finished it a couple weeks ago. That's a Lambo 80 case with an IKBC F87 in it.
That's a Tron theme.
Those are the DSA light cycle caps. It was a group.
This is a great example of one of those standard layout key sets that somebody is going to want.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I desoldered all the switches that had RGB blacks on it, stock. I had to remove the switches anyway because I had to modify the switch plate to get it to fit into the Lambo. And I also had to modify the Lambo to get them the keyboard's PCB to fit in it. But the switches themselves, I stem swapped silent blacks and with 65G sprit springs and lubed it. So these are silent RGB blacks now, and they are fantastic switches for a linear switch. But that's not an off-the-shelf switch that you'd have. You know, requires modification.
Okay, what about you, Novasaurus? What's your favorite switch and why?
See, like Eel is just way more dorking out on this than I am. Oh, because he's like, like swapping springs and I don't know, like so I haven't lubed any switches yet. I've taken switches apart, obviously, but I'm just kind of like I still feel like I just have like a toe in the pool and trying it out. I like I've got Zelio 65s, which is a tactical switch that I use right now that I love. I'm also kind of a content soul, so once I get something that I like, I just kind of ride it out, and I'm all right with that. So I first tried Cherry Blacks, and they were okay, and then I ended up using a board with Kale RGB Blues, which was definitely different from the blacks, and I ended up liking just like the tactile feel a little bit more. So then I got Zelios, and I like them a lot. So that's where I'm at right now. But there's so much out there to try, even just like swapping spring strength on a switch you already like. Yeah, there's a Zelio
right there.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Binge?
Gateron clear housing.
Oh yeah, Binge. What was your favorite?
Okay, so I have 2 that I can't pick between because I guess I'm a hybrid between Eel and Stu here. I have that mentality where if I like something and I know I like it, I won't just stop liking it for any reason. Even if I find something better, I will have really fond memories of that.
Yeah.
My overwhelming Transformer collection will
Nice.
that's I mean, that's just proof. But so my daily driver is an MX White keyboard, and I love MX White switches when they are consistent. Some people have gotten inconsistent batches of white switches, or they'll get a keyboard, and some of the MX White switches on that board just don't feel the same or they don't sound the same. And I've been really lucky and I haven't had that happen to me. But I know what it's like to have a board full of working MX white switches, and it's awesome. It's by far one of my favorite tactile and clicky experiences because the click isn't really high pitched and the tactility is nice and crisp. To me, that does it. For a while, I was looking into silent switches, and Matthias had a silent Alps. And the way it works is there's an elastomer bumper at the top and bottom of the stem that slides up and down. So when you hit bottom, you hit a little rubber bumper. And then when the key switch comes and resits to nominal, it again has a little bumper to stop it from making noise. And this is awesome. And I've always thought I really want Cherries to have the same technology because I like how easy it is to customize a Cherry keyboard. So like Eel here, I've got my silent modded switches. These are I didn't stem swap these, so these are regular stemmed, like the old silent reds. I guess they're still pretty new. They're in there. I just can't show it there. I don't know how long is that. But I put in 62 gram sprit springs, and those were modded by switchmod.net. I sent the RGB MX Silence over to switchmod.net, and he lubed them and did the spring swap and did all that work for me. So all I had to do was assemble my VIA, which is a great custom keyboard.
What is the source that you guys like to go to for online for like the stuff, like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, like for either decks or keycaps? Is there a favorite store, or what's the best stores to recommend to everybody watching?
For switches, yeah, there's a lot of different outlets out there. It also depends on the switches. I actually bought a couple of batches of Novel Keys, heavy Kale Speeds. It's the Pale Blues. These are fantastic switches for a clicky switch. They are amazing. And I'm a linear user primarily, but these switches are fantastic. It's like the perfect weight. The click isn't all that pronounced,
quiet,
but
yeah,
it just has a fascinating action to it. I mean, compared to everything else that I've tried, I don't know what it is about the switch. Even the box version of that same spring weight. Here's a box, pale blue box, and this one has a more pronounced click, but it also has a longer throw because the speeds,
And
but I don't know what it is. Novel Keys.
Novel Keys.
Novelkeys.xyz.
Okay. What about you, Binge? Recommend, like, I know Tech Keys. They're a great supporter for this hobby.
Yeah, I recommend Tech Keys for mainly stuff to tinker with and some parts. I also really like I like Keycap. Keycap is run by J-Chan, and J-Chan does a lot of group buys with the community. He makes new sets available. It's a place where you can find custom keyboard kits and just some really interesting high-end stuff. I'll go ahead and screen share this. So, for example, this is their page of current group buys that are in effect. I mean, they have a keyboard here, the RGB 65, universal 60% brass plates, some novelty keycaps, different key sets. So some really cool stuff here, and then KBD fans.
Oh yeah, yeah.
These guys are from Taiwan, and so the turnaround's a little bit long. So you want to pay for shipping if you want something quick, but their selection is really great, and they have lots of parts on hand. You can get full keyboards that normally you'd have to go to like Alibaba or Alibaba or Taobao to acquire. So I like Tech Keys, KBD
I've had that
fans.
That's 75.
I've had that 75 custom it's in the shopping cart right now. If I go there, just
I've had
waiting to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, let's take a look at this 75 custom. What's so cool about it? It's like 1975 era.
No, it's 75.
No, it's 75. Yeah, 75%. So
let's cycle through some of these
it's like a 10 keyless, but with F keys.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just a little different layout.
It's more compact. You still got your Aero cluster. You've got most of what a 10 keyless has in terms of that island of keys that you have above the Aero cluster. But all of the space has been removed. And this has a feature that I really like with sandwich cases, which is a small piece of acrylic here.
Yeah.
And LEDs underneath the keyboard facing outward.
Yeah.
So you get this where the keyboard is glowing, but you're not shining light everywhere. It's a subtle way to enjoy pretty lights.
Oh, I like that. Red anodize.
Yeah, different anodization options. It's got a really slick machining to it. You can see where they've allotted space for rubber pads here to act as an interface between your table and the keyboard, and the USB jack is nice and secure in its own little cubby hole.
Yeah.
So you can use detachable cables and
tons
of color options.
This is like a manufacturer direct store then?
Yeah.
Well, they are a reseller of goods manufactured in China and Taiwan, but they do things for an absolute minimal amount of overhead. So you're seeing a lot of prices that would kind of match your experience if you were to brave some of those foreign, auction or purchasing bazaar websites. They make it easy to read. They're awesome people. The prices are in line with what they should be. And their options for, say, like this KBD Fan 75, you have so many case colors. You can choose from a brilliant selection of switches, tons of Gatoron options. You can choose it with no switches. You can get Zelios, which are a very sought after switch option for
they're showing up everywhere now.
Yeah.
They're on WASD now as an option.
Yeah, the distribution channels are opening up for them, and it's really exciting. But a lot of people like that. Stu was saying how he really, really appreciated the tactile feeling of a Zelio. So it's an option here.
Yeah, so another big thing like for this board is it's not a group buy. It's like an immediately available option.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're unfamiliar with the keyboard world, a lot of the stuff in the keyboard world is run through group buys, whether they're key sets, so like custom key sets, some like that Eel is showing, or custom cases. So process, you kind of get a slot, and the organizer gets everybody together, gets all the money together, sends it in, the product gets manufactured, and then it gets sent out. And it can be several months before you get what you bought.
That sucks.
So it does suck. And then if there is if something falls through, if you get a manufacturer that bumps stuff, or problems with the whole process. Yeah, signature plastics. It just adds more time. So
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
time
that can be frustrating.
okay. And
Yeah.
okay. The other night you showed me like on Geek Hack, like these staging subforums where these guys are creators. They're creating a deck, and people are getting on board to put in pre-orders for it. That's what's going on.
That's the group boss system. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So there's typically an interest check to kind of gauge interest and feel out how many orders they think they can get. And I'm assuming that's probably from the manufacturer of the product to, well, it's maybe both ways, from the organizer and from the manufacturer, to make sure it's going to be profitable. And then there's the actual group buy phase, where the phase you have like maybe a month or 2 month window where you can get in, and then the production phase, and then sorting, and then shipping. Kind of is how it goes.
Yep.
Binges, do you foresee like any better solution down the road, or is this probably what it's always going to be like?
Well, group buys have been around for a long time. The use of the group buy process, I think, is kind of going the way of the dinosaur. You've got enough vendors now that are really competing to drive or to provide products, which is driving the price down for a lot of these, options that allow you to customize your keyboard into. Well, you saw what Eel was holding up earlier with that Lambo board. You're getting these kits that give you versatility over what your keyboard does, what it looks like, what it's made out of, and then the sky's the limit with all the key sets that are coming out. So, I mean, there may be wait times, but I think in the future, some of the vendors will really stop including the customer base with that preliminary process, to gauge interest. They'll, just make a set and say, this is going to happen. They'll probably have a pre-order phase, but they'll have like a definite deadline to when it's coming out. So I think just things are getting more streamlined to the point where group buys won't really be required for anything unless the community finds something new that is a risk to these vendors.
Right.
But custom keyboards, key sets, parts for keyboards like stabilizers, extra switches, lubricant even to make the switch feel more smooth, it's all becoming more commonplace. Or at least there's a supplier that's willing to stock these items.
I've noticed, like, as a newbie still getting into this and learning about it through you guys and online, is that it seems that this hobby of customizing mech boards is still just growing and growing. It's gaining more and more momentum, which will in turn, like a lot of these vendors, when they have the equity, they can speed up the manufacturing process for you, so but
and you've got some really talented people, still community members, but very much pushing the envelope in what a computer keyboard can do and can give to the customer experience. I guess another shop that I want to mention, or group of people, is Input Club. They're responsible for the White Fox, the Ergodox Infinity, and Input Club is also responsible for the K-Type 75% or 10 keyless keyboard that was recently on Mass Drop. And this is just community-owned kind of stuff. It's run by a group that, one of the founders, I know him as Jacob, other people know him as Hata, but they're in talks with manufacturers about getting their own key switches made that do things for the user that you wouldn't normally think a keyboard key switch can do. Recently, they debuted at the Seattle meetup a Halo switch. And what the Halo does is, with a very specially shaped slider and spring, you get a tactile bump without actually having a tactile mechanism in the switch, which is mind-blowing.
Fascinating.
Some type of membrane in there or what that they've
No
created?
membrane. It's just how the spring reacts with the way that the housing is and the slider are set up. So normally a tactile switch has, you know, just a little nub, and that rolls over something, and that's how you get your actuation. And that's also how you get the tactility in the key switch. What you notice with this keyboard is as you're pressing it down, the weight against your finger changes in a way that it feels like a bump, but it's not. It's just the weight changing as you're pushing it down in subtle increments. It's really wild. But they're also trying to work on a key switch that has momentary actuation. So you get a value of, you know, the attack of the key switch, how far down the key has been pressed. All of those values can be transmitted to something like a MIDI application, all with a computer keyboard.
Sexy.
That's that's crazy.
That's cool. We got some questions in the chat. This one comes from Martin. Question: I saw this infrared or laser keys a while ago, or are you guys interested in this analog keyboards? Anything? Oh, remember that infrared thing that it projects the keypad onto the surface?
Yeah.
Is that what he's referring to? I think so. Was that like just was that kind of gimmicky? There was like a projector. It was red, and you could. Have you ever seen or heard anything about that?
Razer has something. Razer has something coming out soon that they're boasting it like it's, you know, new technology they came up with, but apparently it's basically something from a completely different company that they basically bid off of.
Oh, sure. Okay.
But I don't think there was any.
That's more of what Eel's got. What Martin was asking about. It's the it's basically a key switch where there's a sensor, you know, another momentary sensor. Light field or light ray is passing through the key switch at all times, and when it's interrupted, that's when your actuation occurs.
Ah, okay. All right. So I was describing something completely different then.
But actually, it's really similar because those projector screens are the same concept. You have a projection of light, and then another sensor determining if that light has been interrupted and where it's been interrupted.
Interesting.
So this technology is used to you know, stop clocks during races. This is all, you know, switch technology that's really, really common, not necessarily in keyboards, but it's used all over the place for precision.
Your garage door.
Yep.
Yeah.
The garage door
go.
safety thing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And here's another question from Aaron McNeil. Interested in this, wanting a custom keypad for first-person gaming. So question, can you make your own size boards with key layouts, etc.?
Yeah.
Yes.
Get excited. Get hyped, dude, because
all right.
that's what this is all about. A really great project, if anybody has the time to look this up, is a keyboard called the Dactyl. Dactyl keyboard. And man, this is a ground up keyboard that somebody made to.
I think I've got it.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna pop this up on my screen.
All right, I've got one here too, where it's.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
So this is the original Dactyl that the guy made, and this is just flexible, basically flexible traces that he hand soldered together. He soldered the ICs in there, and it's all hot, like it's in there with hot glue, and the case is 3D printed,
epoxied and crammed in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
It's the finished thing looks a lot like this. It's just
That's hot.
This is all something that somebody dreamed up.
Do you know if the military at this point is utilizing any designs like that?
I don't know if they are. I don't know.
Well, do you think they would, though, at some point embrace that kind of?
A more sculpted?
Yeah.
Well, if you get all of your military facts from film and television like I do,
Yeah.
and you remember Men in Black, every single keyboard in the original Men in Black is actually a kinesis advantage. Look it up. Every keyboard is a kinesis advantage, and it's kind of like that sculpted layout.
Is that the yeah? You see it pop up on like Reddit. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, my company had this it was in the IT storage closet, and some guy used it for a week and then didn't want it anymore."
Yeah.
Now I've got it.
All right, Stu, bring up that
Yeah.
thing you showed me yesterday, that crazy...
Oh.
I'm sure Binge has seen it, but everyone has.
It was on
everybody.
Keycaps.
Okay, he's going to bring up this crazy thing. We're going to be ending the Hangout soon, gang. So if you have some questions regarding anything for Binge, and one more thing I want to touch on of Binge is that he offers this thing called a Synth, and it's a way that you can mold your own custom keycaps.
Yeah. So a synth is a two-part system. I'm going to grab another mold piece.
Okay.
Where we offer one side of the mold, and you kind of have to make the other. And by we, I mean techkeys.us provides what few friends and I designed. And this is a custom milled and hard anodized mold for prototyping and production and making masters of your own keycaps. So this is a bare synth in its current iteration, and here's one that I'm sculpting a key on top of. And I've made every key design since the beginning of 2016, which was that open mouth key called the Hunger key. I've made it on this tool. And the idea is you get this tool and you sculpt your, you either sculpt something on it or you can put a key on it, like a blank. For example, like say this Earl Escape here was a blank key, you just put it on top, you know, press it down all the way, and then put it in a box and pour silicon on top of it. And what you would get is this piece, which would fit in here. So you can tell I make my molds out of Lego pieces. So you'll see all that going around here. And so you're left with two molds. You've got the piece that you molded, and this is the lower jaw of the Hunger key, right in here. It's just one part of one of the keys. There are 4 molds that make up a Hunger key, so again, this is really cool for that. And so when you want to make your reproduction of the part, you take your synth that you sculpted on, you clean it off, you put it into the silicon piece. We provide a cruciform insert, which gives you your Cherry MX stem. You just slide it on in there, and then you pour your resin into the provided gates here. You'll see it fill up. It'll overflow. And once the resin cures, and if you've taken, you know, the proper casting procedures and pressurizing it, or not, however you want to do it. But once the resin cures and you pull the two halves apart, you're left with a key. That's how I've been making keys for some time now.
And you have a guide online that people, when they buy this from Tech Keys, this synth, that they can follow your guide too?
Well, I would really recommend that people get themselves familiar with two-part molds. I mean, you can find a two-part molding guide on how to, you know, mold your own lightsaber or really anything. So you can apply this information to tons of stuff, but as long as you understand a two-part mold, you should be able to understand the way a synth works in this process. Now, if you are having a little bit of trouble, like, it's really, really hard to envision how molds work and the process behind it. There was a guy who made a fantastic video on YouTube. I will direct you guys to his channel.
Stu had found that crazy keyboard design. Stu, you got that ready?
Yes.
Okay. This is what he showed me the other day.
All right. So this is off Keycap. Yes, Gucci. He posted August of 2016. So I think here's all his mappings for all his wiring stuff. And then he kind of did some 3D modeling. There's all the wiring of the switches. So here is the actual keyboard.
MC Escher.
And he's got it's nuts. So he's got like QWERTY on the back side here behind this, and then like HJKL on this side behind.
So that would be right where you are. And that's for your thumb. Is that for your thumb then?
Yeah, this is for your thumb. So I think like space, delete. He's got a video of it. And then so here's the back side of that. But then he also wired in an optical sensor, and it's his mouse too.
Oh my god!
Got right and left kick with scroll, so he moves the whole thing around. It's pretty nuts.
This is kind of that military thing that we're.
It's way too progressive for the military. Come on.
Well, he could teach the military and be a millionaire.
There was a Kickstarter a while ago for a guy who had a two-part keyboard that did something very similar. You would move the hands around, and it was an XYZ axis control as well as mouse for doing fighter plane simulation type games,
well,
flying in space.
I think I've seen people with like 3D mouses for CAD work. And I mean, I've got no concept of that. It would be fun to play with, though. It just, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, as computers become way more integrated in society, input devices, I think, get overlooked so often.
Of course.
I mean, that's why we're here talking about this right now. So it's the interface.
Shape that into a teddy bear and have it so kids learn to grab.
Right.
There you go.
And then graduate to the drone controls later, right?
Yes.
That's right.
God, people used to give me shit for using trackballs.
Right, man. This guy. Next level.
Imagine your employee demands they have that at work.
God.
Good luck.
Okay. So Robert, as his well, you've got somebody's channel up here that's done a guide with your synth.
This is the Board Podcast. It's a gentleman that I know from Australia, and I didn't know that he had a YouTube channel and that he was, you know, reviewing things that that we had worked that Hunger Work.Studio, me and my friends had worked on. But he did a really great step-by-step guide on how to cast with a synth, and he's not using any special machinery to do it. So this is really bare bones. You know, I'm mixing up just some off-the-shelf craft resin, and I'm going to make a keycap copy. And then he does a follow-up video to update users on the difference between the synth that he purchased and our most recent version of the synth, which is the 2.0. And the difference between them, I mean, for us is material. We have a harder anodized coating on aluminum instead of milled stainless steel to keep the cost down and increase the accuracy of the tooling.
Yes.
And we also gave the walls on a Synth 2.0 key will be thinner than an original Synth, but it will allow your keycap to be used with more different kinds of switches. It works with toper housings. If you want to, you know, remove the cherry cruciform and make your own custom toper cruciform for the Synth, you can do that. It also allows you to work with some of the new Kale switches, which have like a more boxy, larger switch housing. So
good.
That's my synopsis, but he has some really awesome observations from a third party that I might not really consider.
That's good. Yeah, it was just I wanted to be able to archive that in this video, so anybody wants to pursue that, they know what the resources are out there. We've got Mutators in the chat. He has a question. Any suggestions for keyboards that are custom cap friendly in the bottom row and has dedicated no function key required media keys, play, pause, etc.? Any suggestions?
I am gonna check to see if Cooler Master has something, because generally they do what Corsair won't do, and that is change their bottom row to suit enthusiasts.
Cool.
Ducky might have something too.
It's just the non F key media controls. I just don't think there's really anything like that short of Corsair or even possibly Cooler Master. Probably not even Cooler Master, probably just Corsair.
I mean, so the Cooler Master Pro L that I'm looking at here, I know that they have a function layer for media keys, but you can also reprogram these top 4 right above the number pad for media. They can be anything that you want. These are your macro keys up top here. So, I mean, that is an option. Like Eel was saying, I don't know if there are too many places that have dedicated keys for media. I think that was something that DOS Keyboard tried a while ago. It was a DOS 4.
See, that's a perfect excuse to get yourself one of those little macro pads. Then you can put together a nice little.
Well, actually, no. The DOS 4 is a standard layout, and it has dedicated media keys. Now, the dedicated media keys aren't mechanical, but this does have a wheel for volume, and it has, you know, the play, pause, next, previous buttons. So that's an option.
DAWs, is that a German company?
Nope, they're from Texas, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they were originally like all for the German engineering of the cherry key switches, and that kind of made their brand when they had the original DOS keyboard, DOS 2, and DOS 3. But I think some of their... Oh, no, they're still working with Cherry. So there you go.
All right,
they're still strong with supporting their old Switch OEM.
Yeah, didn't they take a lot of flack for switching to another OEM?
They did. People really accused them of trying to cut costs at the expense of quality to the customer.
Were they using Edemu switches or something?
It was either Otemu or Kale before Kale was really providing a quality product. You know, a lot of people like the new Kale box switches. I'm not sure how I feel about them. I've tried a few at the last meetup in Seattle, which I attended, but aside from that, I haven't really sat down for a whole day and typed on a keyboard with it.
I have a box blacks on this deck in front of me right now. They're really not that bad for just off-the-shelf switches. They're pretty smooth.
Nice.
My only gripe with these switches though is the proprietary spring size. So
Yeah,
no swapping.
yeah, that makes customization limited. Nobody likes that.
No, we are modifiers and customizers here. On that note, we're going to end the Hangout. But please, in the comments, once this goes to my YouTube channel, please keep the dialogue going and the questions going. And I'm sure these guys, when they have spare time, they'll come back and check. In the meantime, where can everybody find you, Binge?
You can find me all over any of the communities, Geekhack, Reddit, DT. My website is hungerwork.studio. And if you'd like to check me out on Instagram, the Instagram address is instagram.com/hungerwork.studio. Feel free to, add me on your phones, message me at your leisure if you've got questions. My website URL is there. And I hope to be talking with more of you soon.
Yes, for sure. And Eel, where can people find your stuff?
Usually in the dumpster behind the Chinese restaurant. No. The usual haunts. Modzu primarily. You can also go to my own website, eelambience.com. Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter if you want.
Cool. Nubosaurus.
Around. I'm on Keycap, Slack, I guess. Modzu, Mnpctech. I have to finish my build, and then we'll see what happens.
Fresh meat build. Yes.
I was painting today. And I got to get my pictures done. I just have final pictures. It's my driver now, so we'll see. We're getting close.
Cool, man.
Yeah, exciting.
All right. Well, this was a great episode to bring the Hangouts back. And those of you I see were watching from our Modzu channel. But every Sunday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, you can find the Modzu Hangout here, and we've got all kinds of new topics and guests lined up for this year. Please share this, get the word out, and the more hits and views and likes we get, we can get even more interesting guests. There's been some people that made huge landmarks in this custom building PC industry, and I'm trying to woo them on as guests, but they're just kind of shy, and I'm hoping that, well, this is really good for your business to come on here. So, but thanks everybody for watching, and thank you guys for joining today. It's a lot of fun to learn. That's, I think, the best part of this stuff is just learning new things and getting inspired. So everybody in the chat, we love you too, coming in the chat, keeping that active. We've had a steady stream of people watching the whole time, and we really appreciate it. So go out there, as Droog would say, and mod something. See y'all.
Take care, guys. Thanks, Bill.
Later, all.
Peace.